start. That's Locomotion on BBC Radio WM. It's 17 minutes to 1 o'clock. Caroline with you until 2. And then Franks is here with you throughout the afternoon. Now, some of you may remember this story. 3 years ago, Daniel Baird went on a night out in Birmingham and he didn't come home. He was 26 years old and he was stabbed to death outside a pub in Digbeth when a dispute between two groups of men spilled outside. Now, his mum, Lynne Baird, wanted to make sure something positive came out of Daniel's death, and she launched the Daniel Baird Foundation with a mission to get specialist bleed control kits into as many locations as possible across the country to protect someone in the minutes after a catastrophic bleed. Now, Lynne has met with senior ministers who have recommended the kits and is now making the resources on the charity's website that deal with training on these kits free to anyone. Now, I spoke to Lynne before the show and I asked her how she started the campaign.
I started researching bleed control and I couldn't understand why, this kind of equipment, these kind of bleed control kits weren't available. I just couldn't understand that. I thought it was part of first aid kits, which I now know it wasn't. And so I just started researching. Anyway, I found a firm that actually could make them. There wasn't any in the country at all. And I found a firm that could make them, and they did. We raised some money. Unite Union raised some money for me. Then we had the first launch in February 2018.
Right, I see. So what's in these kits that is so vital, that makes such a difference then?
They're designed to stem a catastrophic bleed, which can happen from a road traffic accident, falling over onto a piece of glass, a puncture wound, anything, not just knife crime and gun crime. They've got everything that's needed to just buy those few precious minutes before the ambulance can get there.
And do you think that had one of these kits been available the night that Daniel was stabbed, that this would have made the difference between what we're looking at now in that he's not here and him being here?
I think it would have given him a chance.
And you wanted to make it so that these kits would be out there if this were to happen again. So how did you go about distributing them and who's got them?
There's possibly over 1,000 already out into, City of London Police.
Right.
They've got over 340, I think, at the moment. They're all rolled out into various nighttime establishments and bars and pubs in the City of London. There's also the West Midlands Police and Crime Commissioner purchased 400, and they're currently being handed out. Some are going into schools. They've gone into local shops, community centres, libraries. I think people must have thought I was mad when I first started off, and they're probably right,
Yeah.
I was in severe shock right the way through that first year anyway. But I just kept going. And as luck would have it, one of family friends introduced me to the West Midlands Ambulance Chief Exec, Anthony Marsh. And he sort of gave me some strength to go on, because he totally supported me at the time.
And it took for, one person to have belief in what you were doing and encourage you to kind of get you onto the next step, I guess, as it were.
Yes, and he did. He was absolutely brilliant.
You must have heard from, other parents, if you will, whose children have been in the same position or whose lives could potentially have been saved by one of these kits.
Yes, and I've sent out many kits. Well, I've donated many kits as well. And I've sent them out to several of the other mothers as well.
So through them, you're spreading the word and getting this out there even more. And, with 3 years on, how are you coping with everything and the rest of the family as well?
Some days are better than others. It's not easy. You either live with it or you don't. And that's it. You have to live with it. You have to find coping mechanisms, which I do. I just concentrate on my campaign.
Yeah. You keep yourself busy, keep yourself occupied.
Yes. The rest of the family, there's some mental health problems amongst the boys, but I think they do. They can't see around it. They can't see anything positive from it. And that is difficult. That is difficult.
And how many other children do you have, Lynne?
I've got 7 others.
Right, okay. So people have reacted to this differently. Some have managed to get on with lives and others perhaps not as much so as yet.
It's like a microcosm of society, really, I suppose, with the 7 others. There's one in Florida, and she started her own campaign over there as well.
Yeah.
They're all very, very different.
Yeah. Everybody reacts to these things in different ways. Can you tell us a bit about Daniel?
He was probably the most down-to-earth one out of all of us. He didn't have a care in the world, even if he'd lost his job, because he worked in construction, and that's a very hit-and-miss sort of area anyway, and that's on that day that he died, he just actually got a job at Jaguar Land Rover. And he was so happy because it was regular work at the time, and he just didn't let anything get to him. No, he was just a wonderful, happy-go-lucky lad, always smiling.
And that was Lynne Baird reflecting on her son Daniel. And we will hear more from Lynne after a song. This is Aloe Black now, and My Way On. I've been speaking to the incredibly brave Lynne Baird. Now, her son was stabbed to death in Digbeth 3 years ago. And Lynne has been doing great work since his death, launching the Daniel Baird Foundation. And I just wanted to know, what were the little things that she missed about her son Daniel, who was killed in 2017?
His noisiness. Because the house seemed so quiet after he'd gone.
Yeah.
And sometimes, you just think, oh, he's left the door open again. He's left a towel on the floor, which he always used to do. And it's just so different. I wouldn't want anybody to go through that. Just terrible.
I've got children myself, Lynne, and I've got a 26-year-old son, and it's every mother's worst nightmare, isn't it? To have that news and to hear that, and I just so feel for you. How do you go on after that, Lynne?
You don't have any choice. You either live with it or you don't. That's the way I look at it. You just have to carry on. Yeah. There's nothing whatsoever you can do. And that was what spurred me on to start the campaign.
Did you actually get a chance to say goodbye, Lynne, or was it too late by the time that you got to the hospital?
No, by the time we got to the hospital. I mean, I know now that he died at 5 minutes. And I think that was before we got there, to be honest. We were there by around 5:15 in the morning. But I think he'd already gone. I just didn't feel anything when I got there. And everyone else was crying and, really upset. But I just sat there. It was like a blanket had come over me. It was just an awful feeling. And I said, can we see him? And they didn't answer me. And then nobody came back to answer that question. So
you were left there?
We were just sitting there. They got us tea and comforted us as best as they could. Yeah. There was quite a lot of us there.
Right.
And that was it. I think what happens is it becomes a crime scene. The body becomes a crime scene. And so they just take them away. And there wasn't anything we could do. I never saw him again.
You have done all of this, and you have done him proud with regards to the work that you've put into this and the effort that you've put into making this. If it happens to anybody again, that there is a chance. You've given them a chance that he didn't have.
Oh, definitely. But I couldn't have done it on my own. The police have been absolutely wonderful. City council. So it's not just me.
But you're the one that had the idea, and without you having the idea and without you getting the ball rolling, this wouldn't have happened. So take some credit, Lynne. Come on, you must. What would he think? What would Daniel think? If he was looking at you now, what would he be saying, do you think, to you?
I think he'd be amazed by what I've done. I think so. He'd probably be amazed at the idea. But it's just a simple idea. No, nothing more than that. Just so simple.
It's the simple ideas that are sometimes the best ideas, Lynn. And listen, I thank you so much for coming on to talk to me about it. You've been great, and I wish you well. And if we can do anything to spread the word about this again, you don't hesitate to get in touch. Okay.
Oh, that's wonderful. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you, Lynn. Good to talk to you. Thank you very much. And I'm so sorry about what happened to Daniel as well once more. Well, that's Locomotion on BBC Radio WM. It's 17 minutes to 1 o'clock. Caroline with you until 2. And then Franks is here with you throughout the afternoon. Now, some of you may remember this story. 3 years ago, Daniel Baird went on a night out in Birmingham and he didn't come home. He was 26 years